Like milk, you want to limit dairy if you have cancer. Soy products. Soy is very estrogenic, especially the soy protein isolates. Birth control pills are estrogen. Hormone replacement therapy has estrogen in it. So, of course, if you have cancer and you're taking birth control pills and hormone replacement therapy, probably not the best idea. Now, iodine from sea kelp is a wonderful natural remedy to help balance your estrogens. It's really good for things like fibrocystic breast or ovarian cysts. And then you have DIM, which is a concentrated cruciferous product that helps to reduce estrogen in your body. And because it comes from cruciferous, it's anti-cancer. One mechanism being just lowering the amount of estrogen. All right, mechanism number 6, and I've already talked about this a little bit, inflammation. The more you can cut down inflammation, the less risk you have for cancer. Cancer follows inflammation. A lot of people develop cancer in areas of old injury, areas of inflammation. I remember when I was in practice, one lady had cancer in a certain part of her breast. And I asked her, have you ever injured that part of your breast? And when she thought about it, she remembered having some trauma in that exact location. Another patient came in with cancer of the brainstem. Okay. I asked him if he ever injured the brainstem. He said no, but I did fall off of a roof once and I landed on my head. I said, that would be injury to your brainstem. But out of all the things that can rid inflammation, fasting is at the top of the list. And fasting also can boost the antioxidant networks that you have in your body, thereby minimizing the free radical damage and lessening the damage to the mitochondria. All right, now we want to talk about the 7th mechanism here in relationship to fasting, which brings up this other topic, and that is ketones. You now know that cancer can live on glucose and 2 amino acids, glutamine and arginine. But unfortunately, ketones can provide cancer with the cellular membrane structure that the cancer cell needs. So in other words, just because someone's on a ketogenic diet and they're low in sugar does not bulletproof them from getting cancer. So ketones that come from fat provide the raw material for the membranes around cancer cells. So I didn't know this initially. This is some new information that I tried to suppress for quite some time, but it kept coming up. So I finally dug into some of this research to kind of accept the fact that ketones, unfortunately, can feed the cancer some of the structural parts that it needs, even though ketones themselves have an anti-tumor effect, okay? So here's the dilemma or problem that we're in, but I'm going to give you a solution. If we can't eat carbs and we're not supposed to eat much protein, and now we can't eat fat, what the heck can we eat? We can't fast forever. Now, I've mentioned in other videos that I am doing some research or supporting some research in Europe related to a non-toxic way to block ketones. And even some of you have supported this research, which you probably have gotten an email on the updates. But this is very exciting research and so far, so good. And even though this research is being done in mice, you always start with mice before you do human studies. So this is based on some very interesting data about cancer cells versus normal cells. So with cancer cells, there's really only one door for ketones to feed its membranes. Okay, there's just one door, one chemical pathway. And if that chemical pathway was blocked, you could potentially starve off the cancer from getting any raw material for its membranes. But the question that came up from that is, what about normal cells? Do they just have one door? No, they don't. The membranes from normal cells can come from fatty acids, not just ketones. So the goal is to block this door, this chemical pathway that is allowing these ketones to make membranes for the cancer cells. And this door is called SCOT, which stands for a very long chemical name, which I'm not going to give you at this time. And there just happens to be SCOT inhibitors, okay, both in the medication area, as well as using natural things that have less side effects. And that is the area that we are evaluating right now, doing studies in Europe on mice, and so far with great success. So the following SCOT inhibitors are the ones that are showing the most promise. Number 1, we have alpha-lipoic acid. Number 2, Garcinia. Then we have red algae, and then black seed oil, and then garlic. Okay, garlic handles a slightly different, it's called a salvage pathway, which I'm not going to get into now, but garlic is very, very important. These are all SCOT inhibitors that work synergistically to help starve the cancer of its raw material for its cellular membranes. Now, if you want more details on the strategy, there's some additional studies which are quite fascinating, and I put those in the description below. Now, before I get into the dosages, I just want to let you know, I'm not making any claims this is going to cure or prevent any cancer. This is a protocol that I would take if I had cancer, okay? All right, alpha-lipoic acid. I would start out at 0.4 grams and gradually, over the course of 3 weeks, increase that amount to 1.8 grams per day. Now, as far as Garcinia, I would start at 1.2 grams and gradually increase to 3 grams over a course of 3 weeks. Red algae, I would take 8 grams per day. Black seed oil, I would take 500 milligrams twice a day. And then garlic, I would take 500 milligrams 4 times a day, but that would only be if I'm not consuming actual garlic in my meals or in other forms. So this protocol is designed to shut that door so this pathway called SCOT cannot be an option for the cancer to get its raw material for its membranes. Now, another question that you might be thinking about, the ketogenic diet increases ketones, but fasting also increases ketones even more than a ketogenic diet. So how can fasting help someone with cancer if it's feeding the cancer cell ketones? Well, the answer is this. When you do fasting, you also create at the same time an epigenetic effect, way higher than the effect of just taking ketones. So there's a lot of other things that are going on when you're doing fasting that apparently override this mechanism of ketones feeding the cancer membrane through SCOT. All right, let's talk about the fasting protocol. There's 2 different protocols. One is for prevention. And I'm going to tell you right now, the best thing you can do right now is to do whatever you can to prevent cancer, because once you get cancer, you have the medical profession who is giving you all this information and putting the fear of God in you that you better do this and you better not do this. And it's a massive confusion. Not to mention friends and family giving you their 2 cents. Not to mention the fear of having cancer and unsure what to do. So at a very minimum, you want to be doing 16 hours of fasting and have an 8-hour eating window. And when you eat, you want to do low carb. So the ketogenic diet and intermittent fasting is the best way to prevent cancer, because that's going to prevent the damage in the mitochondria. All right, so what do you do if you have cancer? Well, you want to do regular fasting, but you want to step it up to at least 18 hours fasting with a 6-hour eating window. And if you could, I would do more than that. I would do like a 20-hour fasting with a 4-hour eating window, or even do OMAD, where you're eating 1 meal a day. Now, in addition to that, I would do weekly fasting for 2 days. It's 4 to 8 hours. Very, very important. Every week. If you can't do 2 days of fasting, then do 2 days of 500 calories. Now, to me, that's going to be a lot more difficult because you haven't really adapted to that and you're just lowering calories. And if you eat just a little bit, you're going to be more hungry. But it has been shown that a calorie restrictive diet can actually be very beneficial to help someone with cancer. All right, then once a month, I would recommend fasting for at least 4 days, but